We're here with Toby Byers. Toby was the head men's soccer coach at UW Oshkosh for 26 years, I believe.
Yep.
What was your first connection with soccer? How did you get involved?
Well, I grew up in a very rural area and went to this small parochial school, and for recess in the fall in particular, we would play soccer. And it was a pretty rudimentary version of it, but I suppose this is a bit of a stretch, but my first coach was Sister Marie Bernadette, who I can remember one time bringing out some folding chairs and then just hiking up her habit a little bit to dribble between the folding chairs to show us how to do that. And we were kind of mesmerized with, we didn't know nuns could do stuff like that. And but in any case, she was an exceptional teacher as well, and actually I still send a Christmas card to her every year.
Wow.
But then from there, eventually I went to high school in the northern part of the state in Merrill, and it was pretty soccer barren throughout those years, as well as at UW Stevens Point, where I went to university, although a key figure in soccer development in a way was a guy that I worked for while I was at university. He played in upstate New York at a university. His name was Dave Garrett, and so we kicked around a lot and did stuff like that. And eventually I got my graduate degree in Ohio and then moved to New York to work and started to play and help coach there, and eventually back to Ohio and was an assistant coach at Heidelberg, and then back to Platteville and worked for Fred Eberline there as an assistant.
Yes,
Fred was there for like 25 years, a great guy. And then Oshkosh decided to start their program in 1984, and I thought I might as well give it a go because, chances only come by once, and thinking I'd do it for a couple years, and that turned into a couple decades.
Wow.
So,
We were very happy for it.
Yeah.
So you came to Oshkosh in the mid-'80s, was it?
Yeah.
We were still a little bit lacking in youth soccer, but there was quite a bit of adult soccer going, especially on the indoor level.
Yeah, and they used to have this huge indoor tournament at the Culf Sports Center, and so when I got here, we continued that, and I think the most we could handle, we were at 24 teams, so we would do that on a weekend, but we would get teams from the Twin Cities, Milwaukee, Chicago, a lot of Fox Valley teams. So it was really a great weekend, and I always was impressed with that generation of players because they were kind of like the pioneers. They're the first ones that probably had to say to their mom and dads, "You want to play what? Why don't you play this sport?" That's what I always played. And I always appreciate the parents that were like understanding. It's like, I'm not sure why that's this guy's passion, but we'll support him. And I think that gave way to kind of a real blooming of the sport in the Valley and in Wisconsin itself.
Did that help with recruiting too, to have these teams come in?
Yeah, and I think that's with recruiting. Networking is a really big thing, getting to know coaches, etc. And the early teams at UW Oshkosh, Neenah was really the powerhouse for sure at that time. I mean, they're still great. But we built our first couple teams on the backs of the Neenah program, and a few Oshkosh and other Valley kids. And eventually that started to evolve to we would get kids from Madison and Milwaukee, Green Bay, and that was our primary recruiting area. And then eventually, as we got into the 90s, we were getting some significant players from the Twin Cities as well when we started to make national tournament appearances. So, finding players, you have to kind of know where and who and that sort of thing, but that all took shape then.
I remember you went to the Final Eight several times, didn't you?
Yeah, we would have, since in 1991, that would have been the first time we actually made it to the Sweet 16, and then from then to, well, if I go the year after, 2010, we would have been, it was like about a dozen tournament appearances, 4 Final Fours, and I don't know, some other times we made the Final 8 or whatever.
Yeah,
but that was just a lot of hard work from a lot of great kids that I was fortunate to work with. And one of the things that I always enjoy about this, and it just kind of looping back to this international trip I was talking about, we had a meeting just recently, and one of my former players' daughter is going on this trip this summer, and when he was talking about his experience as a player at Oshkosh, he didn't talk about this triple overtime game we played in the Sweet 16. He talked about the friendships that he still has, 20 plus years later, of the guys that he played with. And if there was ever a legacy to be proud of, that's the thing I'm very proud of, is the fact that those guys really cared for each other, because win, lose, or draw, at the end of the day, they always had each other. And that's what I'd like to think made our team special.
It teaches teamwork. And,
absolutely.
And depending on others and helping others out.
Yes.
Yes. Give and go.
Yes,
yeah.
For sure.
So you had quite a few players from Neenah, which you said was, they took the state championships, 86, 87.
Yes, yeah.
I remember my son played for you for a couple of
Yes.
years, and he was only one of 3 seniors at Neenah in 85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky to get him. I think another fella, maybe it was Greg Schneider, or he might have came the year after, perhaps.
Yes.
And another guy that was, I think, a year older than Peter, Jim Weinman. They were some of the first.
Jim Weinman and Tommy Belter. They
yeah.
were both a couple of years older
Yeah,
than that.
and those are some of the guys that, another guy that came just a year or two later was Ron Smead, who sadly passed away about 10 years ago. But without those guys, everything was step by step, and I was just fortunate to come to an area where there were guys that not just had the ability, but the right temperament to compete at that level and be able to be good teammates for their teammates.
It's part of life. Yeah, Ronnie Smead played for me as a kid, and he was a young kid, wiry, very good athlete, and he wore glasses.
Yes.
And he was excellent on corner kicks. He'd go up there, as he hit the ball, his glasses were coming down.
Yeah.
But the ball went in the net, and before his feet hit the ground, his glasses were back on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun kid to work with.
Yeah.
So then, let's stop a second. I forgot where we